Hi guys, so Keir Starmer was interviewed by Andrew Marr of the BBC, and in this interview he talked about freedom of movement and he talked about rejoining the European Union. Now, Keir Starmer has made comments in the past about Brexit, about rejoining, about freedom of movement, many issues. But, and I'm not letting Keir Starmer off the hook here, but whatever he has said in the past is pretty much irrelevant. And it's irrelevant because, for two reasons. First, because Boris Johnson delivered his deal, and because the UK is no longer a member of the European Union. So a lot of the comments he has made in the past were related to Boris Johnson getting a deal or a no deal, and they're also related to the time when the UK was a member of the European Union. That has changed. We're into a new normal now. So Keir Starmer understands that that's the situation. There's no point trying to change something. There is this deal and you have to work on that as a basis. Keir Starmer wants to win power, so he understands there are two groups that he needs to win power with. He needs to convert people over to his side, and he has to maintain his own base. Now, what's interesting is the maintaining your own base. It's possible to maintain your own base and piss it off at the same time. And I think Keir Starmer, this is his approach. Now, I'm not an expert, but this is my hunch. Keir Starmer knows that he can piss off Remainers, quote-unquote Remainers, people who want to rejoin the European Union, by not promising to rejoin the European Union. Now, how can you do that? I think he's doing it because, or I think he's saying this because he knows these people have nowhere else to go. If they eventually want to rejoin the European Union, they need the Labour Party. Voting for the SNP, voting for the Liberal Democrats, voting for the Greens is not going to cut it. You need to vote for the Labour Party. Now, Keir Starmer understands, I believe, I think he's acting in a Machiavellian way here, but I think he understands that he can piss off the Remainers or the Rejoiners and still win them over. Because where are they going to go? They're not going to vote for the Conservative Party. They're not going to vote for Boris Johnson. They're not going to vote for Boris Johnson's successor. So he knows that I can not promise the Remainers anything because they'll have nowhere else to go. So they will vote for me. Because for many people, Brexit is not the main issue. Brexit may not be the main issue. It will not be the main issue going ahead. The impact of Brexit will be an issue. Yes, definitely. But not Brexit itself. So there's no point in trying to win over people who are probably more likely to vote for you anyway. Now, this is my idea of his approach, but let's hear what he had to say.
Say you won't look again at the matter of free movement of people. Huge numbers of people in the Labour leadership election and in the country voted for you on the basis that you would do that because you told them you would do that. The Daily Mirror asked you in specific terms, if you become Labour Prime Minister, will you bring back freedom of movement of EU citizens to the UK? And your answer was yes, look, of course.
Andrew, what I'm saying is this. We've had, 4 years of negotiations with the EU. The last thing anybody wants, including the EU, is to start again from scratch with this treaty. We have got to, for better or for worse, thin treaty though it is, we will inherit that treaty when we come into government in 2024.
Notice he's saying when we come into government. So he knows, or he's preparing for government. He knows that there's no point trying to win over. There's no point trying to give Remainers something if it's going to piss off someone else. Someone that you may need. Because Keir Starmer needs to win over people who voted for Brexit. Now, these people will be pissed off. They will be turned off if he starts talking about rejoining the European Union, maintaining freedom of movement. He doesn't have to promise. He doesn't have to promise to do these things, but he may do it. I'm pretty sure that Keir Starmer is pro-European. He would like the UK to rejoin. But he can't sell this at this moment for the reason that it would piss off the people that he needs to convert, in a sense. And he needs to he needs to get into power first. So if he doesn't get into power, then nothing's going to happen. But if he's able to get people over to his side on non-Brexit issues, then he has a possibility of entering power, becoming Prime Minister, and then he can start with working towards rejoining the European Union or introducing freedom of movement.
So you won't reintroduce free movement. You said that back in January last year, so not that long ago. And also it was the 6th of your 10 pledges that you were going to bring back free movement. And now you're saying, no, I won't.
Well, Andrew, what I'm saying is we've negotiated a treaty, or the Prime Minister's negotiated a treaty. That now is the basis of our relationship with the EU. We didn't know what that was until we saw it just before Christmas. We now know what it is. It's thin. It's not what was promised, but whether we like it or not, that is going to be the treaty that an incoming Labour government inherits and has to make work. And,
I think quite a lot
it is not being straight with the British public to say we can come into office in 2024 and operate some other treaty. We have to make that treaty work.
It's quite a moment to drop a pledge as big as that and say that a future Labour government will not reopen free movement of people.
Okay, but it's because the situation has changed. And once again, I'm not letting Keir Starmer off the hook here. I'm trying to understand his approach to this. Once again, I think his approach is Remainers will vote for the Labour Party. They will do it. Because if Remainers want the UK to rejoin, they need Labour in power. Labour is the only vehicle for getting the UK back into the European Union. The other parties may say, yes, we will campaign to get the UK back into the European Union, but they don't have the power to do that. There's only one party in Parliament that has the power to get the UK back into the European Union, and that's the Labour Party. But Starmer knows that if he starts talking about that, he's going to kill his chances, because many people would see this as selling out, or people who it will be used as a cudgel against him. So if he drops it, Boris Johnson can't use it as a weapon against him, and he can focus instead on issues that Boris Johnson cannot use. Boris Johnson is incapable of challenging the Labour Party on. He can start talking about reinvesting in the NHS. He can talk about hiring nurses, doctors, education. These are issues that are strong for the Labour Party. That's what he wants to bring the argument around to. He wants to move away from Brexit. And he's correct. Yes, rejoining the European Union is very important, but he needs to win power first.
A lot of Labour Party supporters who may have rejoined the European movement and who desperately hope the struggle to rejoin the EU starts here and starts with you. Will be very, very disappointed to hear
I don't think there's a case for rejoining the EU. I've said that before. I think I've said it on your programme. But I think pretending to the British public that somehow, after 4 years of negotiation, the treaty that's just been secured is going to be up for grabs and that the EU are going to start saying, let's start all over again.
I think he's been dishonest here, but it's in a rational way. It's not in a malicious way, I think. I think he's saying, look, there isn't a case to rejoin the European Union, because he can't sell that at the moment. He has to say this. Now, maybe I'm being overly generous with, or overly kind to Keir Starmer here by suggesting that he's acting in some Machiavellian way and he's playing some sort of 4D chess that we can't see. But I think he understands this core position. If the UK wants to rejoin the European Union, the only way is through Labour. And the only way to rejoin the European Union through Labour is with a Labour government. And if we keep banging on about rejoining or freedom of movement, where the Labour Party have no power at the moment, you have to remember this. There's no value in Keir Starmer talking about rejoining, talking about freedom of movement, when Boris Johnson has an 80-seat majority. He can talk about it, but it's not going to change the status quo one bit. What will make a difference is if Keir Starmer is in power. Once Keir Starmer is in power, the Rejoin movements, the Rejoin campaigns can put pressure on him. Because he is pro-European. Boris Johnson, we don't think he is. It's a bit on Boris. Even at this stage, I wouldn't put money on what Boris Johnson truly feels. But it's more likely that the Labour Party would rejoin the European Union. It's more likely that Prime Minister Keir Starmer would push to rejoin the European Union. But he understands at this moment in time, it's a vote killer. He has to focus on bread and butter issues. Yes, rejoining the European Union is very important for many people. But for the vast majority of people, they don't care about that. You need to talk about education, you need to talk about infrastructure, you need to talk about health, you need to talk about non-Brexit issues. The more Keir Starmer talks about Brexit, the more it damages him. He knows that certain people who will vote for Remain, who voted Remain, who will vote to rejoin, will vote for the Labour Party. He needs to win over people who would not do that. And the only way he can win them over is by focusing on these non-Brexit issues. Now, I'm not an expert on this. I'm not an expert on the Labour Party. I'm just an observer. And this is what I have observed. Let me know in the comment section, guys, if you agree with me or if you disagree with me. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?